Let's now improve the nested route implementation that we coded in the last lecture. And for that, we're going to use a special advanced express feature. So as you remember, in the last video, we implemented a simple nested post route. So just this one here, right? And so this means that the review route is kind of within the tour route. And again, because reviews belong to tours in a sense, right? And so this is a very common thing to do in API design. Now, the problem with this implementation is that it is, of course, a bit messy. And that is because we put a route for creating a review in the tour router, simply because a route starts with /tour. So that's a bit confusing. And what's also confusing is that we have something very similar to this here also in our review routes. So basically this here. So when we create a new review without the nested route, this piece of the code here is actually exactly the same as this one, right? And so besides this being a bit confusing, we also have duplicate code, which we would have to maintain in two separate places in case we wanted to change anything. And so again, that's a very bad practice. And so let's now fix this using an advanced express feature called merge params. So first off, let's remove this code here, which doesn't really belong into the tour router. Next up, we will actually import the review router into this tour router. Okay, so right now we're importing the review controller, but actually we want the review router. So let's get rid of this one. And actually I'm going to delete it altogether. And now the review router and okay. So let's actually get this code and put it here at the top just so that we see what we're doing. Because we will actually create some new code right here at the top. And so what we're going to do here is to say router.use. And so we will basically say that this tour router should use the review router in case it ever encounters a route like this. And review routes, or did I call it routes or router? Should be called router. Okay? So keep in mind that a router itself is really just middleware. And so we can use the use method on it and then say that for this specific route here, we want to use the review router instead. Okay? And so this is actually, again, mounting a router. So if you take a look at that here in the app.js, that's actually exactly what we did. So we did .use, then the URL, and then the router. And so here, what we're doing is actually the exact same thing. So this is the tour router. And so then we say, well, whenever you find a URL like this, well, then just use the review router. And so right now, when we have a URL like this, it will start by getting into the tour router here, okay? Because again, it starts with /tours, okay? So basically it's rerouted into the tour router. Then when it reaches the tour router, then it will match this URL here, and then it will again be rerouted into the review router. And like this, we have the tour router and the review router nicely separated and decoupled from one another. But now there's actually still one piece missing, because right now this review router here doesn't get access to this tour ID parameter, okay? And so now we need to enable the review router to actually get access to this parameter here as well. So let's now move to the review router, okay? And so this is where the magical merge params that I mentioned right in the beginning comes into play. So here in the express.router function, we can specify some options. And here all we need to do is to set merge params to true. And that's it. But why do we actually need this here? Well, it's because by default, each router only has access to the parameters of their specific routes. right? But here in this route, so in this URL for this post, there's of course actually no tour ID. But we still want to get access to the tour ID that was in this other router, right? So this here. And so in order to get access to that parameter in this other router, we need to basically merge the parameters, okay? And so that's what merge params set to true does. And so now, no matter if we get a route like this, so let's just copy it here. Again, it's easier to visualize it with an example. And so again, no matter if you get a route like this or a route like this, it will now all end up in this handler here, okay? So in the end, basically to this handler function. And again, that works because all of the routes starting with this kind of pattern here will be redirected to this router exactly in this line of code here, okay? So we redirect it to the review router here, and so then in there, it will match this exact route, okay? And thanks to merge parameters, we then get access to this ID, which actually comes from the other router before. Great. So let's just do some cleanup here. Actually get rid of this here, and let's quickly try it out now. So I'm going to create a new review here, and let's try another tour this time. So the City Wanderer. And all we need to do is to change that ID right here in the URL, right? So the rating is going to be 3, and then was kind of okay. All right. And so this review will still be done with Jonas. So from this account, okay, because that's still one that is logged in at this current moment. Okay, so let's send that. And indeed, here we get the tour that we just specified and still the same user. So let's again, just to make sure, check that tour to see if it now gets this review. And yeah, it did. And so that merge parameter trick that we just implemented actually works just fine and as intended. Now to see this in action even better, we're going to adapt the handler function for getting all the reviews for a specific tour right in the next video.